It's Milton Justice, and we are working through the idea of my book, I Don't Need an Acting Class. This chapter is called Deadly, Deadly Facts. One of my favorite Stella Adler quotes is, "Facts are death to the actor until they're fed through the imagination and become the experience of the facts." The experience of the facts. So I find this particularly evident when actors start rushing through. First of all, actors have a tendency to say, well, if I do it faster, it won't be boring, which is, God, I don't know where we got that. When the truth is just the opposite is true. When you do it faster, it sounds like there's an actor doing a monologue faster. So another one of my bumper stickers is, everything is something. It's vital to think that there is an importance to everything. And it is important. The writer has chosen New York for a reason. There's a difference if a play takes place in New York or Houston, Texas. And so we kind of have an obligation to have the experience of what it is that we're talking about. And so that we don't just throw it away. We don't just throw away a fact. It's the reason, as you know, I hate those 5 questions, which my friend Belita, who's an acting coach in Los Angeles, says she thinks are now 10 questions. And it's because the 5 questions seem to make you think that if you answer the question correctly, now I can do the part. Who is he? He's a doctor. Excellent. It's important for us if it's winter, if it's Paris, if it's I'm a lawyer, that these particular facts of the play, I drove home from Yonkers 5 miles an hour. All of these are essential parts of a play that bring you to life. One of the reasons that I get insane at productions of Death of a Salesman is because, unless you're Lee J. Cobb, Willie Loman, when he says, I drove home from Yonkers, I drove 5 miles an hour. If you don't understand that that's not a fact, that the experience of that man doing that will break your heart. It's the first time in his entire life that he ever had to come home from a trip. And when he says, I drove home from Yonkers, I was driving 5 miles an hour, you know he's gone. Of course, Arthur Miller gives you a spoiler in the title, Death of a Salesman. We know he's going to be dead by the end of the play, but you see it there. Otherwise, it's an actor reciting a fact. I drove home 5 miles an hour. The facts of the play are to get you to thinking. And you have to give yourself permission. If we're doing a play like the Clifford Odets play Country Girl, and what we say is one of the facts of the play is that it is a play about the theater, and the theater in the 1950s in New York. So tell me about the play. Well, it takes place in the 1950s in the theater in New York. If you don't take the opportunity to go, this is the thinking part. The thinking part is, I wonder what the theater was like in New York in the 1950s. I'm playing Bernie Dodd. I'm a director. So now I'm thinking, what was the world of the theater like in the 1950s? And so as soon as and again, it's not an essay. It's not answering the question. As soon as somebody says to me, well, it's the first time in the history of the American theater where commercial investment was important. Stop. Think. What does that mean to me as a director? It means my play has to make money. So all of these things begin to very, very slowly simmer. You know, I love the idea, the famous, I talk about this a lot with character, but the famous writer Faulkner, when he was asked about his process, he said, well, the first stages are the ingestion, where I take in the facts. And he said, and then I let it gestate, or as one of my students said, I let it simmer. And then he said, then writing, of course he was Faulkner, he said, you know, writing is not so difficult. You just trot along behind and write down what they say, and there's a bit of editing. But so, okay. Slight oversimplification. Somebody like Faulkner could say that. But for me, I may not right away understand what it means to be a director in the theater in the 50s. So if I wander around for a day and let that kind of sink in, good for me. So what we're talking about here, I just want to make this clear. What we're talking about here is great acting. So, you know, this particular concept is great acting. Not, I'm trying to audition for a TV series tomorrow morning and they just sent me the sides. It's possible that eventually, if I do enough of it, that it will be how I think automatically. But this is, at some particular point when I say, what I'd like to be is a great actor, then this is part of it. This is the part of it. There's a story I absolutely love about Meryl Streep. Meryl, one of two times I had Meryl attached to a project. I called this the weekend I had Meryl Streep. I was working with Lee Grant. We had a script that we'd sent to Meryl. And on Friday, we heard back that she was very, very interested in the script and she would let us know on Monday. Monday, we got a call, and I think Meryl called Lee, and she said, I love this script. It's just the kind of script I would like to do. But there's a movie I would like to do, which Alan Pakula is directing. And he's given me a month to prepare my audition, and I am leaving for Poland this afternoon. The movie was Sophie's Choice. Probably one of the 5 finest film performances in existence. She knew what it took. She knew in order to get this part that she needed to absolutely own being a Polish woman. And I don't speak German, but I have friends who speak German, and they said when she speaks German in the movie, she even speaks German with a Polish accent. But that's it. That's it. So what we're talking about here is, if you want to be a great actor, not just a functional actor, not just to get a job, but if you want to be a great actor. So the facts of the play get you thinking. Whether the facts of the play get you thinking, I wonder what it must be like to be a Polish woman. So those are the facts that get you thinking. It's what this is the part where, and this is whether you're playing Bernie Dodd and you're playing a director. It's like, I wonder what it was like to be a director. Well, when you start doing research, you think, oh my God, have you seen what was on Broadway in the 50s? Elia Kazan had both Death of a Salesman and Streetcar Named Desire running in the same town at the same time. Well, if I'm playing a director in the 50s, my God, my competition is Elia Kazan. And if I'm smart enough to turn this thinking into understanding Bernie Dodd's mentality. The problem with the first scene between Bernie Dodd and the country girl, which is the title, the wife, is he walks into the room and he says, "Where's Frank?" Now, if you're not careful, you'll think he's pushy. But the fact is, if you know that he's up against Ilya Kazan, he's a guy that doesn't, he has no choice. He has business to take care of, and the wife of the lead actor is of no interest to him at all. But you're not going to get that. And so what the thinking leads to then is understanding. If I have the thinking, then I begin to understand how he lives in this world where this fact exists. And then I get to the final step, which is the experience of the facts. So what I did was I took this fact, a director in the 50s in New York. I went through a process where I thought about it, where I did the research about it, where I went to Poland for a month, where I looked at it and thought about it. Then I began to understand what it would be like to live in that world. It's just, I go into that world. I surrender to that world. I let that world happen. I don't have to set, no director has to say to me, when you walk into the flat where the country girl and the lead actor, Frank, where they're living, the director doesn't have to tell you to look around in disgust. You're in that world. I'm working on a documentary at the moment, and I was showing somebody the beginning of the documentary, and the actor I was showing it to said, "God, that's so good for actors. Look how much time he takes to think about that answer." And you see, that's it. We need to watch those moments. They're not set. Nobody said to me, "Pause there." But they're totally and completely filled. And that's what happens when we take the facts of the play and let them become the experience of the facts. Next time, I want us to talk about another, what I consider to be huge fallacy of acting, which is writing things down. Writing endless things down, writing backstories, writing biographies, writing pages and pages of information about my character, as if this is going to save me. I have a chapter in my book I call Talk It Out, Don't Write It Out, and for God's sakes, don't think it out.
Hi, everybody. It's Walker Vreeland. I'm the producer of I Don't Need an Acting Class with Milton Justice. Director of online media is Evan Solers, and music is provided by David DeJuice. If you have a question or comment you'd like Milton to address on an upcoming episode, email us at questionsformilton@gmail.com. Again, that's questionsformilton@gmail.com. And if you like the podcast, please subscribe and leave a review. Thanks so much for listening.